April, and today we brought exactly the same message. And so it's a little eerie, but it's great to see most of the suggestions we made in this current proposal.
Okay, so, the course of action, the steps that are going to be taken in the next 18 months, are you happy with those?
As I said, we do have the existing plan, but I think what Councillor Henderson was getting at are there things that we can speed up that make more sense, make more economic sense, that get us a bigger bang for the buck on emissions. We would definitely like to look at that and participate in this. Once again, this is a scenario that the administration has drawn up. I'm pretty sure the final plan it'll be tweaked, and we will find new ways of reducing emissions. And some of these ways may not work out as well as we'd hoped, and some will work out better. But nevertheless, there are things that we can do sooner, quicker, and more effectively, yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Wagner, the nuclear expert. Nuclear expert energy is nothing new.
No.
Okay, tell me, why hasn't it taken off? If the way you say it is cheaper, it's easier, but it hasn't really made its mark yet.
Nuclear suffers from a really bad case of PR. And unfortunately, a lot of people look at it and they look at the recent history of nuclear construction, let alone any of the very public events that have happened with nuclear that are negative in public consciousness. But the problem is that everyone looks at the United States' version of how nuclear plants should be built. Every plant is custom. Every opportunity there is evaluated individually, and every set of regulations for it is rewritten from the beginning. It takes a very long time. It costs a lot of overtime for it because things sometimes get changed in the middle of construction. If you look at countries like France or Sweden, they licensed 2 or 3 reactor designs. They planned everything out beforehand, and they set one set of regulations before anything was constructed or even ground was broken. France built 45 nuclear reactors in under 10 years, and they basically decarbonized. So the idea behind nuclear not catching on is mostly a regulatory thing. If the groundwork is prepared, and if the companies building the reactors are satisfied in the security of their investment and that nothing will change once the construction has begun, nuclear can build very, very quickly. South Korea is one of the latest countries to build large-scale reactors, and they built a 1.5 gigawatt reactor in 4 years, from groundbreaking to first power. Nuclear can be built very quickly. Unfortunately, it's just a big it's mostly a public perception issue, and that's what my group is trying to change. We want to bring it back into the conversation so that people can be more informed about what it does and how quickly it can come into play.
Thank you.
Councilor Walters.
Thank you. So a few questions. Firstly to Blair, I just wanted to thank you for coming. It was an excellent presentation, and you should continue to give it. And you should speak more. Is that something you're interested in doing?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Wilson, you were wrapping up a bit of a description about PACE, property assessed clean energy tool for people who rent. Did you just want to not go on at length about that, but maybe just finish your thought?
Certainly.
I think that's an important thing for us to consider.
Yes, thank you. PACE is a fantastic program. The thing that I was going to refer to is the fact that we have a lot of renters in the city, and the PACE program right now is basically designed for homeowners. And the people that can least afford to pay the energy bills, the expensive heating bills and electricity bills, are going to be the renters. So I was going to suggest that we incentivize that program, since the city of Edmonton is actually the pilot for it in the province, and recommend that we incentivize it so landlords and people like that will actually use that to benefit the home renters, I should say.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank you for noting that, because once we get the other PACE program functioning, which it isn't yet, and we're waiting on pins and needles to get it moving, that is something we need to get to work on. So thank you for that. So to that, maybe Ms. Donnellan or Mr. Dodge, that is an important program. We await some administrative news, whether it's gonna be the province or us, is there any that provides the administration for that? I guess that's something we just continue to wait on, we don't know quite yet what we're gonna do, is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So what, maybe, you know, again, we think about, continue, we thought our advocacy on PACE was complete, but it turns out it isn't, so we continue there. But PACE actually gets associated with solar panels predominantly, but in fact, the technology that you referred to, Ms. Donovan, around, I think it was like a home-based sequestration that turns carbon from natural gas into soap or into other, or peat that you can put in your own garden. That could be, those kinds of tools or technologies at the home can be included in PACE programs, right?
So I don't want to demonstrate a lack of interest in it. I simply don't know anything about the implementation.
That's why I didn't ask you. That's why I asked Ms. Dawn.
Okay.
I'm teasing you, Dave, but I did. Chelsea, if you.
Yes, PACE can be used for more than just solar panels, energy efficiency, a variety of things.
Right, okay. But I will ask you, Mr. Dodge, about the importance of, in your view, of preservation of agricultural land and natural areas, particularly in climate action, or Climate Shift 6. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Then I'll ask you about the electricity grid.
It's not something that we looked into it at ETAC. I know the administration has looked into this a little bit in their research, so it might be a question you may want to put to Mike Melross.
We will. Any worry about, you know, if the current mix in the grid, in the electricity grid, if there's more renewables or less, how that affects the ambitions that we have locally? Can you?
Specifically to electric vehicles.
So electric vehicles or anything that we do that's electrified. If we're,
Yeah, so we clearly need the grid to green. We know that it is on that pathway called the green line. That's usually the tipping point where EVs go from being kind of a wash with traditional combustion cycle vehicles to being better than. And as we increase renewables, they are now proven to be cost effective in Alberta's grid. I think the pathway that we're on is aligned with the EV sales.
so when we passed the energy transition, the last hurdle we had to get over was some understanding that we had to be in alignment with the province on a lot of things, or else we were not going to be able to go as far.
Yeah.
So what do we do now today about this?
I think one exciting opportunity that council is looking at is purchasing 100% green energy for all corporate use. That is an excellent purchasing power ability, and council can continue to work with the projects however they want.
Okay. Lastly, electric vehicles, again, if the grid's not fully green, electric vehicles, my understanding, are also not fully green. So what's the sort of backfill for that?
So electric vehicles are coming. Even the most conservative projections are projecting that by 2040, at least half of all new sales globally will be electric. So it is coming. As far as energy transition is concerned, it needs to come. So we can't say we won't do electric vehicles because the green's not green. The grid is not green at this moment, because it needs to get green as well. So it's a both and. We need both a greener grid. And our role in Edmonton is to model good behavior by purchasing green energy for the city's operations, which is work that's already underway. We are encouraging our citizens to purchase green energy and to install solar. And of course, in the energy transition plan, our role is to lobby the province and encourage them to do more green electricity.
Thank you.
Other questions? Maybe to Ms. George, you were talking a little about economic benefits and co-benefits, and Mr. Melross was talking at the beginning about risks to GDP, and then we talked a bit about social risks and public health risks as well. But talk to me a little bit more about economic upside. I mean, I think maybe to borrow from Mr. Kirshner, we can either be the last people to be buying these solutions, or we can be part of innovating the market responses to these challenges. So can you talk to me a little bit more about the economic opportunity?
So the economic opportunity right now, we actually have a lot of capacity that has been developed and is threatened to be idle due to the fact that the government of Alberta had put through regulations on community generation. The regulations are in place still, However, it's been confirmed that the programming, which was $200 million for contracts for differences, which essentially is not a supplement, not a fund supplement, but it's a backstop to contracts for and a revenue guarantee to those undertaking generation projects. And that's currently what the issue is right now, is bankability. So it is not easy for project developers or installers or organizations like our client, Solar Power Investment Cooperative of Edmonton, to be able to get community generation projects through, or any kind of commercial solar generation, due to the fact that it's just not seen as bankable. The banks right now see it as a high risk, and it's not an accurate assessment of what the picture is. So certain things that would make that more favorable in terms of the economics is actually having a committee that is able to create standardized protocols where it helps signal to the banks that there is consistency in how to evaluate these projects, and it's done with multiple stakeholders brought to the table. Secondly, and if there is a possibility that the city could take a leadership role on igniting that community generation programming that the province likely will not be, or has confirmed to not be continuing, then there would be a revenue guarantee opportunity for all commercial solar, and commercial solar, of course, has huge opportunity, in the sense that if you look at in the States from 2012 to now, solar development has doubled. That's equated to 242,000 jobs created and 10,000 plus organizations moving forward and developing within solar. So that would be the areas that we would say would be areas where there could be an economic impact for the city. What that contract for differences means is, with conservative estimates, you would be able to actually end up revenue net positive, and so would the generator, and with the city being actually the larger benefactor in the equation. So that's
a mix of regulatory, which is in the province's hands, but there might be a de-risking.
The regulatory, yes, that's a big part of it, because the process is ambiguous right now as to how to be a small-scale generator and participate. It's supposed to be determined in the fall, but we do anticipate there being delays with the change in government. So advocacy as well towards the provincial government for reducing those barriers, but as well to creating standardized protocols with the federal and the provincial government would help to reduce those barriers as well.
Well, encourage our staff to connect with you to be able to take that as input for our advocacy. It's sort of administrative to administrative, because it's pretty technical, but I appreciate the thrust of what you're saying, which is there is opportunity and the technology exists. One of the other things that's always interested me about this is the co-benefits to public health, and so I think a number of folks have touched on that. Specifically, my question was for Ms. Caligiru, were you aware that the city's, the one strategic goal around climate was mentioned, but that we've got two other goals that touch this directly. One is a healthy city goal, and one is a goal around urbanization and land use, and really all three of those, that's 3 out of 4. The fourth is about the economy, and we touched on the economy, but do you see an opportunity for your organization, other organizations? We also had, Ms. Mack, I think, was also talking about working with us, about finding a way to align our public health planning, our land use planning and infrastructure planning, and our climate planning in a more effective way for our public's benefit, to illustrate the big picture of what we're trying to do here. Was it clear to you that the city had all of those goals running in parallel, and do you see an opportunity, either you or Ms. Mack, to bring those in tighter alignment for the public's understanding?
You're asking if I was able to pick that out, essentially?
Well, were you aware of those different high-level strategic goals that the city had?
You know, I was, but of course, as a nurse, these are my priorities always, right? These are the top priorities, the only priorities. Of course, everyone else has
do more. I don't know if I've answered all your questions, but.
I've been at a high level, it's a continuing conversation, so if
Yeah.
you're willing to engage on all three of those points where they converge is where we're gonna get.
Absolutely.
I'm out of time, so, I will stop there. Any other questions, Councilor McKean? Then we'll take a break.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous to ask this question, but anybody who wants to jump in. So in our design committee, we've been looking at the impact of planting trees on aesthetics. And there does seem to be a lot of benefits in this realm to a major tree plant, and other countries have done this in a significant way. So I just wondered if anybody had any comments on whether or not we have emphasized that enough in our own strategies. A major tree planting.
If I may,
I hear a voice.
hi, over here.
There you go.
Yeah, I have not, I don't think that's emphasized as much as it should be. I've been reading about how trees actually can be, this is really like, 2019 to say, but that this, that trees can be one of the technologies that we implement, very retro technology. But I think that, it's something that I know that me and my partner at home have spoken with, and it's something that we think is extremely valuable, and is probably a lot easier than inventing some sort of carbon capture technology. That they exist, right? We have them.
And you also, I think we know that the public, as far as getting volunteer hours, is there. I talked to the forest industry, they're on
I think it's a
site.
great opportunity for families and for, young people, older people, whoever, it's an active thing, right? This is a co-benefit thing, it's a
Right.
nice way to get outside,
Yeah.
spend some time with the community, get to know people.
Well, and we all feel a little bit petrified by this issue, so to be able to be engaged in some way would offer mental health benefits, I suspect, as well as the mental health benefits we know that we get from a tree camp.
Personal opinion, I think being engaged is the number one thing you can do to help reduce your own ego anxiety. It makes you feel like you're part of something.
Yeah, there was a budget item I actually delayed, which was not a major investment of money, but I think that's something we have to look at in the future is investment from the city multiplied by citizen involvement and industry involvement, maybe even philanthropy. So, any further thoughts? Mr. Dodge?
Yes. Yes, all right, so. Go ahead. So it's Kimberly Wolf from the Climate Hub. I think that in general deforestation doesn't get the attention that it deserves in the climate issue discussion. Next to fossil fuel consumption, deforestation is a major source of global warming, and I think one that the city could possibly emphasize more in its solutions. Tree planting, as long as it's protected from fires, which would then release the carbon into the atmosphere. And we recently have something that I found quite upsetting was the fire in Mill Creek this summer. I thought, inside my own city this is happening. If we can protect those from fires and keep the carbon being sequestered, then yes, I think this is.
According to Mr. Trump, you just have to tend the forest. Somebody over here.
I think this is.
Tempted to rule you out of order, but that's okay.
I think this is an opportunity to also engage with Indigenous communities around Indigenous stewardship of the land. This is a key component of the IPCC report as well, is that returning natural spaces to Indigenous stewardship would be a great way of showing that partnership, that solidarity, and reinforcing commitments to both reconciliation and to combating the climate crisis.
That was a unanimous yes, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for this panel? No? All right, thank you all for your submissions here. When we'll take a 15-minute break, and then we'll hear from the balance of those who are registered to speak. So please come back to be in your seats at 3:50 so that we can hear from Chris Goosen, Jerome Cranston, Reza Nasri, and Brian Wolford, who has been able to join us. So
Thank you, we're in recess for